Hi, welcome to Messier Mantra. I'm your host, Mike Messier. On this episode, we have filmmaker Tom DeNucci.
Hey Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Good to see you again. You've been on the Messier Mantra before. In this episode, we have a very special project we're going to talk about. It's called Slimebuck. Why don't you tell me about it?
Slimebuck is a project that's very near and dear to my heart, and you hear the term passion project thrown out there a lot, but this one really is, because it's not something that it's not really my project initially. It's something that I'm carrying out for somebody else. The backstory is a friend of mine from high school by the name of Kyle Sorelli contacted me a couple years ago and told me that he had this concept for a movie that he wanted some help with, specifically the script. He was in the scripting process, and he needed a hand writing it. He hadn't really taken on a screenplay to that effect yet, to feature screenplay, something big like that. And he had known that I had been doing some stuff in the horror genre at the time, and I had said we were high school buddies, but we didn't really hang out in between that time, and it's been quite a few years.
Right.
It's been a good stretch where we didn't really see each other for a while. So, of course, we're in the social media world. He was easily able to reach out to me on Facebook and said, "Hey, man, you want to come over and check out my screenplay?" So I get a lot of those requests, and but Kyle was a kid from the neighborhood, a guy that I went to since middle school with.
Right.
So I took the time and I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And I met up with him. A little side note about Kyle: when I had known him when we were in high school together, he was always he suffered from muscular dystrophy.
Right.
So he was always in a wheelchair and was dealing with a lot of challenges. And when I saw him that day several years later, right away I realized that his condition had kind of gotten a lot worse.
Right.
And suddenly it went from the wheelchair to now he was unfortunately reduced to being in a bed all the time.
Right.
And he had a hospital bed, and that's where he was. And he was in there on that hospital bed with a laptop on his body, and he could really only use one finger. And he would just sit there and type one letter at a time.
Wow.
And he cranked out this script called Slimebuck.
What determination on his part as a writer.
Yeah, he just wanted it so bad.
Right.
He literally typed one letter of each word at a time to crank out this draft of a script.
Right.
And he gave it to me, and we didn't even start talking about the movie right away. We kind of just started rekindling a lot of the common things that we were into. We're both big horror movie guys, both big pro wrestling guys. We're both into kind of cheesy, schlocky horror movies from the past, and
right.
So we had a good time, just kind of like geeking out,
reminiscing,
getting to know each other a little bit more now as adults.
Right.
Years later, and then of course, okay, let me see this script. Let me take a look at this thing, and I read it. And I go through it with him, and it's actually really good.
Right.
And that was the most compelling part of it. And this wasn't just like a charity case, like,
right.
"Oh, can you help me out with this piece of crap?" No, it was good.
And what's Slimebuck about the script?
Slimebuck is a kind of a hybrid cross between an E.T. type movie,
right,
and like a Home Alone.
Right.
It's about a kid who has a little bit of a, not such a great night ahead of him.
Right.
He's going through some problems of his own.
Sure.
And he meets this ferocious looking, but incredibly friendly alien.
Right.
Named Slimebuck. Who happens to be incredibly slimy, of course.
Right.
That's part of like the byproduct and like how he moves, he slithers. And
sure.
He's a slimy dude.
Yeah. We all have our issues.
Yeah, we all have problems, So they kind of build this bond overnight, and meanwhile, there's this rock that the kid's father has. The kid's father's like a renowned scientist who works for the government, and he's accidentally brought home this very valuable rock, which turns out to be a very valuable power source, which could potentially create some kind of weapon of mass destruction.
Right.
So there's these Russian terrorists of some kind that are after the rock.
Ivan and Vladimir,
who
right.
we'll meet later on. And basically, you've got this kind of mashup here where you've got these scary bad guys who are after this rock, which happens to fallen in the hands of these two cute, innocent kids.
Right.
And their pet alien monster.
He's a kid at home is named Tad, and then he's got a
Tad.
friend.
Which is short for Thaddeus.
Oh, very good.
If you didn't know.
I didn't
know that. Kyle told me that. I was like, what is Tad short for?
Tad. That's funny
I've always
stuff.
heard Tad like a tad bit. You know, to me, a tad is like a unit of measurement, you know.
Tab is what I'm thinking, but that's tab with a B, not T.
T-A-D.
Yeah. Tab was
short for Thaddeus.
Right. So now we move forward with the project, and essentially Kyle was kind of guiding this, and unfortunately,
We're moving forward with the project, and he basically asked me for help. He basically said, "Look, Tommy, I'm obviously not going to be able." He had a hell of a sense of humor.
Right.
He laughed about it. He was like, "Look at me. I'm obviously not going to be able to run around set and direct a movie, but what I can do is I could have a monitor set up here. I could have you on radio. We could shoot this in my house." And I could have you basically be my eyes and ears and be my messenger to my actors if need be.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, of course I would do something like that. I was about to go make a film called Almost Mercy.
Yes.
I said, let me go make my movie Almost Mercy. We were literally like 4 weeks away from shooting.
Right.
I was like, when we shoot this, we'll link up and we'll go from there. And, I'll help you make this movie, absolutely.
Right.
Well, it turned out Kyle didn't get a chance to make it that far.
Yeah.
And kind of, surprisingly to me, I mean, I didn't know it was as bad as it was. And,
right. He probably was very stoic with how he discussed things.
Yeah,
like
and he passed away, and he obviously didn't get a chance to make his movie.
Right.
So pretty shortly thereafter, Kyle's mother and father, Vin and Annette Cirilli, they came to me and they were like, look, we're making this movie happen.
Right.
With or without you. Like, we want it to be with you, but we are carrying out Kyle's legacy and his dream, and we're going to make this movie, and we'd love to have you be a part of it because I know that's what he wanted.
Right.
And we did it. We went for it. We put together a short film. We didn't, of course, everybody knows that movies cost lots of money.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the day, no matter how much passion you have, no matter how much creative power you have, no matter how many resources you have as far as people you know or who can help you do what, you're going to need to come up with money for your budget.
Yes.
So we didn't have all the funding in place for an entire feature film, but we were able to take Kyle's story and make a short film version of it.
Which is about 20 minutes.
Which is it's about 20 minutes. It's just shy of 20. And it was a real great experience for everybody. Aside from the fact that we got to, take a person's dream and kind of carry it out, it was really therapeutic for the family.
Right.
It was really therapeutic for his friends. I can tell you this much. Normally when I shoot a movie, we have what's called Video Village, which is where the director sits and usually the department heads and sometimes some producers, and everybody watches the monitors. That's where you watch your movie. I don't usually like to have people around Video Village unless they really, really have to be there, because it's distracting. It's hard to focus.
Right, you're trying to focus and do your job.
People surrounding you and being like, oh, his shoelace is untied, I think. It's like, shut up, I'm trying to direct the movie.
Yeah.
So I don't normally let people near Video Village, but this was a case where I was like, Video Village is open. Everybody come on in. And we literally had his entire family and friends, like anybody who was there, was crowded around my monitor. We were all kind of like making this movie together in a way. And it was fun because I remember talking to my DP, Sam Eilertson, and my first AD, John Schermerhorn, and John Del Ponte was the production designer on that. And we're all kind of on the field, so to speak, playing the game, whatever. And like we'd do a take, it would end, and then like everybody would cheer.
Oh,
and we'd like look around, we'd be like, what is going on? People are cheering and stuff. We're like, well, they're excited, this is awesome for them.
Right.
And then we're like, all right, well, let's just embrace it. So we'd take a take and we'd start clapping. It was like a football game.
Yeah.
And the set took on this kind of live performance element to it. And it was just like a really great thing. And I think it was a really great way to celebrate Kyle's life.
Right.
And kind of, honor him and just have that moment to really think about the guy. So basically, here we are now. We've got this short film.
Yes.
And now we're beyond the short film, and we've got a feature screenplay. And Vin and Annette, of course, they're very tenacious people.
Right.
And they're the type of people where if they set their mind to something, they're probably going to do it.
Yes.
It's going to get done.
Right.
By hook or by crook, as they say, or whatever. And they're going to make this feature film. So they're putting together a really big campaign to get a crowdfunding campaign going and spread the word. And we've got a lot of buzz on social media going.
Right.
We've got the MDA Association. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's the Muscular Dystrophy Association. They're behind this project. We're donating portions of the proceeds for any funds that we do get together are going to the MDA Summer Camp.
Great.
Which is a really cool thing. The MDA Summer Camp, I think, is just like such a great concept. Basically what it does is it takes these kids who are bound to a wheelchair or whatever, type of apparatus. They all have the same disease. They're all suffering from muscular dystrophy.
Right.
And they get to go to camp together for a couple weeks, and they get to be away from their parents, feel independent a little bit,
Yeah.
and be around kids that are like them. And for once, they're like everybody else.
Right. And
It's the one time of the year where they can go somewhere, and they look around, and they're not the minority.
Everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah.
And maybe they have discussions about what they're going through, or maybe they don't. Maybe it's just an understood thing. Like, let's just have fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's put
Yeah,
that.
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe it's a little bit of both, but I
Right.
think it's just great for them to be able to get together with their peers. And I know that Kyle loved going to this MDA Summer
Oh, you got
Camp,
to go to that, yeah.
And that was like his favorite thing to do every year as a
Yes.
kid.
Right.
So what we're doing is portions of the proceeds for this film or any money that we raise, it's going to that summer camp so that we can have some kids that wouldn't have the opportunity to go there,
Right.
experience this camp, get out with their peers, and have some fun.
That's great.
So, I think Kyle would appreciate that. I think he'd be smiling down on that idea.
Oh, yeah.
And we are going for it with this movie.
Let's try and take a look at some still photos at this point. We'll have a...
Yeah, these are some stills from the short film that we made.
Yes. So we have some stills and our good friends Cody, and here we go at the studio. So we got Billy V. We just saw Billy V as the limo driver.
Yeah,
Here's
Billy
the dad.
V, limo driver, gave us his Rolls Royce to play with, which was awesome. That was Joe Seriani. This is a photo of Slimebuck in its earliest form, actually being created by Ben Bornstein off of Kyle's design.
Yep. That looks great.
And yeah, you can see that Ben put an awful lot of work into this. And this was the first film that I made working with a puppet, which provided its own set of challenges. But
Sure. Because you have to be cognitive of how it's moving around and the controls and everything.
this is that rock I was telling you about with all of its powerful characteristics. And this is Joe Seriani again. This is a behind-the-scenes photo. That's our DP Sam Eilertson and our AC Steve Levin. And down there, that's Erminio. If you guys are from around here, that's Big Nazo Lab.
Oh, yeah.
He's the guy who runs Big Nazo Lab.
Is that the creator of Big Nazo himself?
He is. That's Big Nazo, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've met him. He's a cool guy.
He's an incredible puppeteer.
Yes. Here's Fred Sullivan. Prior Mantra
who I hear
guest.
is a veteran of the Mantra.
Yes.
And he's a guy that I love working with, dear friend of mine. And anytime you have him on set, he's going to do some pretty incredible things to raise his character to a level you never really even dreamed of.
Was he Vladimir or Ivan? He's one of the two Russian guys.
He was Vladimir, I
Okay.
believe.
And then Nick Principe. And
Aren't those two names interchangeable?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Nick. That's Fred Sullivan in what we call the slime sack.
Right.
Basically, Slimebuck has the ability to encase you entirely in this acid-like slime sack, which renders you essentially, paralyzed, as you see here.
Right. What do we have next? Oh, this is one of your stars.
Little Jack Bernault. Kid's like a little comedian. He had us just laughing our faces off the entire shoot. And luckily, we were able to even calm him down to do some really quality takes, too. Unbelievably talented kid.
He plays Edgar, is that right?
Edgar or Eddie.
Eddie, yeah.
Yeah, Eddie. That's his awesome lizard helmet. Which,
he's Tad's best friend. And
that's Tad's best bud. He adds the comic relief.
Yeah.
This is another shot of the mythical rock there.
Right.
And the Russians finally have their hands on it. Joe Seriani, great actor from Boston. There's Tess Deegan. She's also a Massachusetts actress.
Yeah, she looks great here.
Yeah, she was really fun. This whole cast was awesome. There's the scientist father again.
Yep.
And
Here's
here's
Tad.
our lead. There's Tad himself. This is Jonah, and he's an extremely talented young man. You're going to see him in a lot of stuff in the future. He's also in Almost Mercy. I got to work with him.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Nice.
And
He played the young star of Almost Mercy,
He
the
played
younger.
the young Jackson. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And these are some awesome cupcakes that everybody wanted to eat on set, and I had to be like, no, you cannot eat them until we finish shooting. And then by the time we finish shooting, like, they've been out for 4 days, and you wouldn't want to eat them.
Now you can have them.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, okay, guys, go ahead. A famous pastime of me as a kid was playing video games, so we,
Yep.
of course, had to incorporate that into the movie. I know Kyle loved video games, too, so that was a big part of the process. This is a great shot of a visual effect that Sam Eilertson, our editor and VFX guy, also was the DP on this, put together. Little taser blaster that the Ruskies have tasers, beware.
Here's Kyle.
And there's our friend Kyle,
Yeah.
creator of Slimebuck,
Yes.
and the man behind the slime.
Right.
There's Nick Principe, who's really big in the horror genre, great actor, great stunt performer, great stunt man.
Fred and
There's the
Nick.
gruesome twosome, our Russian bad guys, Ivan and Vladimir. There they are again, just in a slightly different pose.
Yes.
And this is Michael Zuccolo, who's a very talented up-and-comer. He plays our pizza boy. And, there was a bigger part in there for Mike.
Right.
And he didn't get it originally. There was some politics.
Oh,
in
we
there.
won't get Slimebuck politics.
But you know what? I said, hey, buddy, can you play this little pizza guy role? And he was happy to do it, and he came to town. It was awesome.
Nice.
This is one of the working posters. It's kind of like a little Brady Bunch theme.
Right. Oh,
Kinda
okay.
deal.
Yeah.
I think
great.
this was actually shot at when we first played the movie at Rhode Island College. That's where Kyle went to school.
Yes. And that's Kyle on the lower left, I believe.
Yeah,
with
that's
the
him
Rasta
down
man
there.
hat. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Morbidly amusing.
There's our Jamaican Rastafarian Slimebuck.
There's a little sequence of different Slimebuck.
Reggae Slimebuck.
Right, reggae Slimebuck, and then I think we have a few more too.
Yeah, there's punk rock
punk rock
Slimebuck.
Slimebuck. That's a funny little sequence in the film where Slimebuck kind of lets loose into different.
Yeah, the kids
variants.
kind of. It's almost like the pretty woman moment.
Right.
Where they're like trying to find his look,
Yeah.
and they settle on this look here. Which
Trying
is
on
kinda,
different outfits.
But you know, the truth is, Mike, they just liked him for who he was.
Right.
It wasn't about the gimmick.
Right.
It was kind of cool how we get the tongue to work. That was literally the puppeteer's hand.
Oh, okay.
So it was just his hand with this kind of cool tongue-like sock on.
Right.
So that's Slimebuck, everybody.
That's Slimebuck. I don't know if we. I think that's it for the photographs. We're back to Messier Mantra. So, working with
Yeah.
the family, and just a lot of stuff going on with the project, and just as the Annette and Vin are discovering, and you're kind of helping to guide them. Like, what a process it is to make a feature film. Right?
It's a big process to make a feature film, and it's a really time-consuming process. And that's one of the things that I think they've understood now, and I think they realize that this isn't something that happens overnight. There's a lot of moving parts, and they've done everything that they could to take all those little moving parts and kind of line them up and have it ramp up with the right energy. So they're I'll tell you what, for people who have no prior film experience,
right.
they've done a really great job producing this movie and getting it to where it is and building a little fan base, building a little bit of a buzz. And I'm excited to see where they go from here. And I think this project could be really successful. I think a lot of people could get behind it. It's for a good cause, and it's got a good message behind it. And like I said before, it's a good story.
Right.
I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think that it was a great story to begin with.
Right.
If I didn't think that it was something that, reminded me of the movies that I kind of grew up on. And
Gremlins, Ghoulies,
Ghoulies,
Home Alone.
Gremlins, Home Alone.
Yeah.
There was this movie with Fred Savage, My Little Monster or something like that. Or
Yeah.
there's just like so many of those genre films that are kind of inspiring. I don't know if you remember, but there was an 80s toy called Boglins.
Okay.
And I know that Kyle actually told me that, that was one of his original inspirations for this.
Nice.
But, we learned a lot on the short. And in a way, I think it was kind of nice for us to make that short first, because we realized a lot of the challenges that you deal with when making a movie with a puppet.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about again, we were on a bit of a budget, so we didn't have the ability to put our puppeteer in an entire green suit and key them out later in post.
Right.
We had to rely on the old-fashioned tricks. Hide the guy behind the bed, hide him underneath a sofa, hide him, he's sitting under a stairwell, you know, all the old-fashioned tricks to conceal the puppeteer,
Right.
while still having it interact with humans.
Right.
You know, it's not like you're doing the old kind of puppet show in a box. Like this puppet's interacting with people.
Right.
So I learned a ton making this short in terms of just like how to photograph a puppet. I mean, Sam Eilertson and I, my DP, we do a camera test of our subjects. You know, I learned this from Vincent Gallo, and what I like to do is most of my actors, I'll take, especially leads and stuff, I'll take like 100 photos of them.
Okay.
Like all around their face, you know, and kind of like see what they look like from different angles. And it seems kind of weird, but it's like you find different things about people's faces, you know.
Right.
Like nobody's symmetrical. Yeah. And there's all these things where it's like, ooh, he kind of looks scary from this angle. He kind of looks a little vulnerable from this angle. Or he looks like he's really, you know, happy when you shoot him dead on. Or he looks more charming or sexy or whatever. I think you're sexy, Mike.
Thanks.
So I did that with this puppet.
Right.
And what we were finding is, whoa, he looks really vicious when you shoot him from that angle with his teeth out. But when he kind of furrows his brow a little bit and you move your hand down within the puppet, he looks cute and he's friendly. And, you know, for scenes with the kids, we want him to look friendly. For scenes with the Russians, we want him to look ferocious.
Like he's stepping up to fight the Russians.
So it was kind of fun to like figure out the anatomy of the alien and figure out like how to shoot this thing.
Yeah, even with stuffed animals, you can be in your room and the lighting in your room, like, oh, there's my friendly Smurf or whatever. And
yeah, and you could look like a demonic being.
Right.
In the next shot.
I think we have. Let me just jump in. I think we have a video.
Yeah, we do have a video.
The father, Kyle's father. So we'll just wait for that to pop up.
Let's roll that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this really tells you the whole story.
His ability to flush out an idea, to nurture that idea, to research that idea, put it on paper, was something that Kyle had the ability to do. Very unique. Just the fact that he couldn't handle the equipment had no bearing on his ability as a film director, a film writer, and so forth. So he really embodied, in my mind, what independent filmmaker and a passion for that industry was all about. One of these ideas was the idea of Slimebuck, the movie, and he flushed that idea out the same way he did all his others. You know, we were on track to get that done with Kyle here, so getting it done without him here, we're following that track, and we're very happy that it will become part of his legacy, of course. He was the strongest person I knew, and he was the most dedicated person I knew. He would sit there, actually lie there for hours with the mouse, typing out one letter at a time, just to complete that movie. And we're still realizing his dreams, and his legacy will carry on.
Yeah, there's a Facebook page and a really nice website. I was checking that out last night.
Yeah, it'd be great if people who watch this segment of the Mantra here, if you want to check out our Facebook page and learn a little bit more about the project, you can just search Slimebuck, all one word, Slimebuck. And that'll bring you up to speed on what we've got going on. We try to post just about every day. We've got a lot of really cool content that we put out there. Everything from stills from the movie to behind the scenes videos to interviews with a lot of people involved in the movie. We're just always, feeding a lot of content out there so that people who do care can check it out. And again, Kyle affected a lot of people's lives in a really positive way.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that find it very therapeutic to kind of just check in and see what this project's doing as a way to kind of stay connected to Kyle in a way. And, I think it's a nice way for people to keep that memory of him alive. as well as support a really cool piece of art. I mean, Slimebuck's a cool story. It's a great, great kids movie. And for me, it's changed me a little bit as an artist, because at the time I had done nothing but straight up horror movies. And here I am making this little kids movie, and I've got, kids on set, and we're, everything's PG as could be. And it was fun for me because that's a challenge as a filmmaker. It challenges you to do something different out of your comfort zone.
Right.
And I've since gone on to make a kids movie and direct one,
Arlo.
shortly after, Arlo the Burping Pig.
Right.
Which will be coming out in the springtime. So, actually in the fall. So it's kind of one of those funny things where you never know what direction life's going to take you in, and
gave you some growth as a filmmaker.
Yeah, that's why you young filmmakers out there, take every opportunity, because you never know what you're going to learn from it.
Let me give you a little spin on the mantra, because as you know, Messier Mantra, we usually ask.
I'd love to spin on the mantra.
We usually ask guests, what's your personal mantra? But this, because we're kind of honoring Kyle Christopher Sorelli, I believe is his full name. If I have that right.
KC Sorelli is what he used to like to go by.
Oh, you like to go by KC. That's cool. Yeah. So, do you think Kyle, if he was here, not to put you on the spot, do you think he would have a mantra, or maybe that your mantra that you learned from working with Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be simple, and that you hear this all the time, and it sounds corny sometimes, but I think that's corny. I think this is legit. I think his mantra would just be never give up.
Right.
As simple as that. Just like he never gave up writing the script, I mean, this is the God's honest truth. On his very last day on this planet, he was doing revisions on Slimebuck. His father told me that.
Yeah.
That's what he really cared to do on that final day. He was still working on this concept and on, making this script better. So I think it'd be just never give up. If you have a dream, just keep going for it.
Never surrender. And I remember, just as a writer, I've been in those locked-in moments when you finally get your head together and you're like, I'm going to write. But with Kyle, it seems like he didn't have that problem. He was just writing all the time and just so determined.
Yeah, I think it was a really good way for him to kind of, get his thoughts out and know that if it was on paper, it was going to last forever. I think he knew that he had a clock that was ticking. We all have a clock that's ticking, but I think he knew that his was sped up a little bit. And I think for him, it was about being as prolific as possible in that short period of time, so that he could get as many of his ideas out while he could.
Well, I think it's great that you and the Sorellis are continuing Kyle's story, and like you said, it's just a cool story in general. Just a boy and his monster, Slimebuck.
It's just a pet alien.
Well, Tommy DeNucci, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, Mike.
Thanks for watching this episode of Messier Mantra with our guest, filmmaker Tom DeNucci. We'll see you next time on Messier Mantra.